Hello everyone, welcome to Cartoon Season. I'm Tyler, and today, oh man, today is gonna be, everyone already knows, but it is the Owl House Season 2B, otherwise just the second half of the second season. 11 episodes, I think, which is kind of weird, just an odd number, but yeah, so that literally just came out. If all goes to plan, this should be going up on the Saturday after the finale. Kind of a week after, giving myself some time to think about not only the finale, but also the second half of the season as a whole, and also as it pertains to the entire show. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that. Today's going to be a little different. Normally, I, have like a couple, 2 or 3 or 4 kind of topics or, fun little angles to attack, for lack of a less aggressive term, attack a show or a movie. Today, when I was writing the episode, I was thinking that I feel like there's just too much to talk about, and to kind of put it all in, trying to put all of the talking points into like little hats seems unnecessary, I guess would be the right word. It just seems unnecessary. So instead, I'm going to do today's episode a little different. I don't think I've ever done this before with an episode, but I'm going to kind of go through episode by episode of the show. Like I said, there are 11 episodes. I'm going to go through episode by episode, not really reviewing them, because I don't really like reviewing stuff. I think that's boring. But, more so kind of taking each episode as its own thing almost, and kind of breaking down why that episode is important, and kind of how it all ties together to pretty much everything. So I think it'd be pretty fun. And then at the end, obviously going to do some predictions, because next season, season 3, is the final season. It is a truncated season, but it is the end. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Not only predictions spawning from these last 11 episodes, but predictions from all the way back to episode 1. Enough talking about it. Let's actually talk about it. So let us start with the first episode, which is Follies at the Coven Day Parade. This was the great moment, because I was coming back to the show. This one was pretty much all about the comeback for Luce, right? Because this was the episode after Luce, saw her mom in the other world, in the human realm, and we had that very emotional moment with the mom not wanting her to leave again, all that stuff, right? She hasn't told her friends yet, and I think that this is a really nice introduction to the season, because it really is taking this, it's just walking right into it. like we're getting so many like payoffs, I guess, from what happened last season. So like some small stuff, which I think Owl House does very well, is the small stuff as well. So like, the episode opens up with Amity learning Spanish from a cookbook, cookbook that Gus gave her. And it's just little nice things there, where it's like, Amity doing stuff to strengthen the relationship with Luce. But then we move on to some heavier stuff, and, Luce not wanting to tell her friends about what happened with, her mom, and if she actually was able to visit, which right there is really tough, because Luce loves her friends, and she would, of course, want them to be in on everything and help her, but, it just goes to show how heavy the situation is, and how much she's thinking about it, like in her own head, and how it's getting to her, because in her mind, she's like, my mom is going to make me stay. Like, my mom is going to make me stay in the human realm and never see all of my witch friends again. Which is really hard for her, because, even if we go back to episode 1, like, the whole reason the show exists, pretty much, is because Luce was going to be sent away. And because she didn't have any friends, right? And so now that she has some, it would be ridiculous for her mom to take her away from them. But given the whole, another realm situation, it'd be pretty difficult to argue with the mom, just based on like a safety and like a like grounded reality standpoint. But then, that kind of spawns what the main plot of the episode is, where, Luz kind of uses Kikimora to prove her own point, where, Kikimora has to, kind of live both worlds, right? One with her family, one with the Emperor, the kind of two sides of her. And so Luz is kind of projecting on her and like, okay, I'm going to help Kikimora successfully live in both worlds, because if she can do it, then, she can be an example for me. And, I can know, she's trying to convince herself that this is something that's okay. That like it is possible to live in two completely different worlds. And this all kind of comes to a head when, Kikimora eventually betrays her. Betrays her for such a stupid reason. She was the possible promise of a promotion, and it turns out to be a promotion of her getting to live. So Kikimora, I don't know, she's not really that evil, but at this point in the show, she's just kind of a sad character. But the payoff from the first half of the episode is the second half, and especially the very, very end, where through, saving Luz, Amity being there, like a good girlfriend would be, she eventually breaks Luz, not in a bad way, but basically breaking her down and making her tell her everything that happened. And that was really nice, because I think that was a pool of tension for the entire episode of like, okay, Luz has, we clearly see Luz has not told anyone about this, except for her, Eda and King and stuff, because that's her family at this point. But I think that was a question we were all going to have, starting the episode, where it's like, okay, when is Luz going to tell them? And I think her finally breaking down to Amity and being like, okay, yeah, here's everything, because she realized that Amity and her friends can help. I think that's the biggest takeaway from this episode, is that Luz telling everyone, Luz finally, releasing that pressure from her, and bringing everyone in. And now that kind of sets the precedent for the rest of the season, where it's like, okay, that's not really a problem we're dealing with anymore. Now we want to know, because now it's established, okay, Luz at this point is going to do everything she can, and everyone around her is going to do that as well. Even Eda has like an offhand comment of like, oh, there's no way your mom would actually keep you from the demon realm, but we'll never know. We will know at some point, but yeah, so that's kind of the biggest thing with this episode is, this episode was the coming back from the crazy mid-season finale and bringing everyone in. The next episode, Elsewhere and Elsewhen, this episode was pretty much introducing who Belos really is, and with Philip and everything like that. It's pretty heavy-handed as to who Philip is. Luz and Lilith don't really figure it out, until farther in the season. But I think as a viewer, we're like, okay, clearly Philip and Belos are the same person, because we have some cool adventures. I think a very lighthearted part of this episode was Lilith. I think we saw a lot more of her, which was really cool. And, her being like the cool aunt was really fun. And even like the way she was portrayed as a cool aunt, I think it's like, a very cliche portrayal of that older parent trying to be cool, but they're not. But to Luz, she is cool, like unironically. And, it's nice to see, because you could call Lilith her aunt, right? Like, if you call Eda her surrogate mother, even though she has a real mom who's a pretty good mom for the most part. Which is nice to see that relationship grow. And also us see more Lilith, we've seen heaps of Eda for obvious reasons, but now we see more Lilith, breaking down her character a little more, especially with like Flora at the beginning, her having somewhat of a rival mentor. Let's see what else we got. And then really the final like setup as to what's really happening. We finally see more of the Collector. We don't really know too much about them, but we know that Collector is important in some way or another. Not quite getting back to the human realm like Luce would have really liked. But this episode is mostly focusing on Philip and how pretty sure it's Bellows, especially with all like the broken palisman that we see at the very end. That's huge, that, Bellows is human and he came here. We don't know why. Even at this episode, I was trying to make notes, and I even had a question of like, why does Philip hate witches so much? Like at this episode, my only thought was like, maybe a witch is the one who cursed him, and that's why he has to like suck in palisman energy, to like survive, I guess. But yeah, that's kind of what this episode was. It was a fun little romp with Luce and Lilith, but then also introducing the Collector, introducing how powerful Philip could be, like how powerful he was at that time versus where he is now. Because again, they saw him in the past, they didn't see him now. So to see like how much progress he made both with magic and with the plan, and now we see how long he's actually had access to all that stuff. Because again, this is all in the past because they look like time pools or whatever. So yeah, that was that. Then we move on to next episode, Any Sport in a Storm. Let's see, what was this one about? This one had a fun kind of overtone with Flyer Derby, which is definitely not Quidditch. But they had Flyer Derby, and one note that I wanted to make here is, I like how strong and capable Willow has become. I feel like in the beginning, they really painted her as, she was half a witch Willow, right? She wasn't that good of a witch. She was on the wrong path, the wrong Coven path, which, was no fault of her own. It was her parents, right? But, how much she's grown to be like a leader, and like how she's really not scared of a lot, and also how strong her magic is. I really like that, this episode in particular did a great job of showcasing like Willow, like, hey, like she's cool now, I mean, she was always cool, but like, she's very capable now. She can actually lead the group if she needs to. And let's see what else we got. We do have a little B plot with Luce and Amity trying to find the author, because there's a nice little theory that the author is possibly human or maybe a witch. It doesn't really matter which one the author is. The main thing they're trying to go off of and hoping is that the author can travel between worlds, because on one book she's portrayed as a human, on one book she's portrayed as a witch. So it's like, oh, maybe she can travel between worlds, and maybe this is what we need. We need to see her because she can give us the answers as to how to do that. Not really much to say here, but I do like how their little B plot here was like the most, like, mostly the reason that the B plot exists is to kind of make fun of us as viewers and like how stupid some of our fan theories sound. Like the amount of times that Luce and Amity both rattled off some crazy conspiracy theory as to who the author is, saying that the author, was like Luce's mom from the future, trying to train her in magic. It was just like dumb stuff like that. And like, it was very thinly veiled, kind of poking fun at us, and not in like a mean way, but, more so in just a way of like, that's just what fans do when they watch like a show or a movie or a book or whatever. As they're consuming it, they start making some fun fan theories. Most of them are never true, but I do like how they kind of poked fun at that. And then along with showing us a lot of Willow, we also see a lot more of Hunter. This is where we really see him to start becoming a good guy. We saw a little bit of him back when he was kind of sorta helping out Luce. When he was kind of a sad sack, when he was fighting Amity back at the lake, but this is really where it's like, okay, no, Hunter's just kind of misguided, but deep down I think he is a really good person. We see that with him actually putting his all into the flyer derby stuff. We see that with like possibly the first genuine smile he's ever had when he was taking a group selfie after the what was their name? It was like the Emerald Entrails. After the Emerald Entrails had their win, like that's the side of Hunter that I think we all want to see, and I think he really wanted to be. But him being the Emperor's Golden Guard, he never got the opportunity. It's a very classic storyline of like having a parent that's not really a parent. So it's kind of sheltered from the fun stuff. And then we see a little bit of a betrayal, but I don't really see it as a betrayal, because Hunter truly believes that everyone wants to join the Emperor's Coven. Like, why wouldn't you? The Emperor's Coven is literally the best. But no one wants to join the Emperor's Coven, especially nowadays where wild magic is kind of making a comeback. Even with Hexside where people are being allowed to do multi-tracks. It's like, why do we want to join the Emperor's Coven? Why would we want a sigil? Like, well, that's stupid. If we have a sigil, we can only do one type of magic. And I mean, again, that's, to my earlier point, like, that's just something he was grown on. There's something he was born with, like, Emperor being his uncle, which we learn that's later not true. But, Emperor being his uncle, it's like he's been a victim of propaganda within his own household. But at the very end, this does kind of wrap up with Amity and Luce. The B plot kind of goes nowhere. Again, the ending even kind of makes fun of conspiracy theories where it's like, the author is nobody. The author is just a human from the human realm, and sometimes these books, we all know that human stuff crosses over into the demon realm from time to time, and that's just what happened. And it's also funny because the only person that's ever bought these books was Amity, which is funny. But the kind of cherry on top of all of this is I think Darius. Darius we see is actually kind of a cool dude. When Hunter stands up to him, but then Darius is like real talk. He kind of wanted that. He kind of wanted Hunter to stand up to him. He kind of wanted Hunter to rebel a little bit and like make friends outside the castle. And you see that Darius was kind of looking after him this whole time. In the beginning, it seems like Darius is like one of those like pompous, like, I'm a head of a coven, I don't care about anything or anybody. But you see that he was kind of nudging him along in the right direction the whole time. And I think this is one of the first, if not the first, indications that Darius does have a heart and he actually is a good person. Like, he actually wants what's best for people, and he's not just a crony to the Emperor. And then moving on to next episode, Reaching Out. Let's see. This episode was mostly okay. So this was a sad episode. Very, very good. This was the one where Amity she does not want to join the Emperor's Coven. She wants to join the brawl and win the belt just like her dad. She obviously looks up to her dad, very much respects her father. And so that's kind of what the episode was on the surface. Which I really like. We do see more of Amity, which is always good, but we see more of her family, which is cool. I feel like I could always use more of her family. Not so much Odalia. Odalia kind of sucks. I feel like she is like the general consensus of Owl House fans is that Odalia is the worst character, and she gets even worse, which we'll talk about later. But like, the more we see Alador, the more it's like he's cool. Like, he seems like the only sensible parent that Amity has. And then even Ed and Emra are cool. In the beginning of the show, we saw them as just like these troublemakers who mess with Amity. But we find out that they actually really care about Amity, and they're actually a lot closer than we originally thought. And let's see, what are some cool things about this episode? Speaking about some blights that we don't see very often, we have Ed, and we don't see too much of him, but in this episode he helps Eda and King with their little potion, and I like that because I always love seeing more characters, more character growth from people who are not necessarily main characters. And, his story is cool. He's always kind of feeling like the lesser sibling, between him, Emra, and Amity. And we see him finally getting acknowledged for his strengths. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like his strengths don't always come into play, which is why he's seen as an afterthought, compared to Amity or Emra. But then when there's a situation where he can thrive, like, he's amazing. He's a little boneheaded, but he's great. And, like, I love that. I don't think Eda is actually going to take Ed on as, like, another student, but, I do like that short little relationship that we see. Because it's another one of those examples of, don't put someone down because they're not matching what you feel like they should be. Why not play to their strengths and kind of grow those, and but oh man, then we have what the episode is really about, and it's about Luce. There's a big day. She's acting weird the whole day, and Amity can't figure out why. Even Eda doesn't really know. I mean, all Eda knows is that this is an important day. She usually spends time with her mom. It's like an anniversary of some sorts. But Luce's been acting weird all day. What's going on with her? Why can't she sit still? Why did she join the tournament? That doesn't make sense. And we find out that it's because today is the anniversary of her father passing away, and every year since then, her and her mother would pick flowers. And I don't know if she said that they would, like, visit his grave. I don't remember if she said that, but at the very least, they do pick flowers in memory of how her father would always give them flowers, just like randomly, I guess. It's just like a, just like a nice gesture, right? Like, oh, here's some flowers. It's always it's a very common, very nice gesture to do to interact and, like, show love to to your loved ones. And that. Oh man, that hit hard. Like, this was one of those episodes, guys, where it hit very hard and very deep. And you just see Luce, them sitting under the tree, and Luce is explaining it, and we don't see Amity's face. And when we do see her face, she's like shocked, like heartbroken. Like, she's not crying or anything, but she just has that look on her face of like, that is the saddest thing I've ever heard. Also, why have you not told me about this? And, like, also a little bit of guilt almost, where it's like she maybe feels a little bit guilty about being upset with her, but now that she knows the reason why Luce was acting funny, she's like, oh man, that is a perfectly okay reason to be kind of weird and be, like, spacey and all that. And they even have, like, a moment where she's like, I don't know what your weird human customs are. Like, she doesn't even know what flowers are, really. Because, well, I mean, no, there are flowers in the demon realm, but, like, they're not, like, the same. All the flowers are weird. But she's like, when I'm going to win the tournament, and we're going to come back, and I'm going to pick flowers with you. And that's even compounded by another very nice and emotional moment where Amity goes to run away to, go to the finale of the tournament, and Luce goes to follow her, and she can't get up. Like, her legs don't physically have the strength to support her own weight at the moment because of all the emotions that are going through her right now, and probably along with sadness and everything, because of talking about it, probably a lot of relief too, from getting that off of her chest and, like, telling someone, and even telling Amity specifically. And that mirrors. It's such a good moment because it also mirrors Amity's situation, where the only reason that she's doing this tournament is because she wants to get closer with her father. Because her father was the one that won the tournament way back when. He got the belt and everything, and so she very much looks up to him, and she also loves, doing abomination magic. So she's like, I want to follow in his footsteps. I want to do this stuff too. And I figured this was a good way for me to get closer to him and, like, relate to him. And, because it definitely seems like, again, Alador is the more sensible parent. But he is very distant. That just goes to do with his work and the relationship with Odalia, which we'll talk about later. So again, the writing of this show is incredible. For them to have those two mirrored plots of like both characters are acting the way they are in this episode because of their fathers is so smart. And then that's pretty much it. We have a couple nice moments at the end where Alador likes Amity's hair color. He points out that that's the same color as like the abomination stuff, and Amity's like, oh, I'm glad someone finally noticed. And then Luce and Amity tie flowers to a balloon, which again, there's some nice mirroring here, because right as they're doing that, they're like picking flowers together. It cuts to Camilla, who is putting a flower in a vase at home. That's like, man, they both remember, they both know it, even though they're not together, they're still carrying on the tradition. And it's just like, man, just like arrows right through the heart. So again, that episode was the first real like emotional journey of this whole thing, or of this kind of second half of the season, and it hits, and it kind of just strengthens the whole reasoning for why Luce would want to get back to everything, but also strengthening like the people's relationships around her and like why she needs all these people. Then we can move on to the next episode, which is Them's the Breaks Kid. This was a great, mostly kind of a bottle episode, but I thought it was really fun because we get to go in the past, and we get to see Eda as a young student right around the age of Luce, and it's just nice because mostly we get to see Eda and how she excels. One of my favorite parts of this episode was kind of in the very beginning, where her and Lilith are going back and forth kind of studying for the Emperor's exam or whatever. And we see that Eda is always kind of seen as like a rebel, as like she doesn't really care about stuff, she doesn't really put in a lot of effort, she just kind of does whatever she wants, she's very much like a free spirit, right? But as her and Lilith are going back and forth with like quiz questions and answers, we realize that Eda's like really knowledgeable and like really smart. Like she probably matches or maybe even exceeds Lilith's knowledge. And like Lilith was, in the Emperor's Coven, she was kind of always seen as more of the bookworm. But we see that Eda kind of schools her a little bit, and it just goes to show that like Eda does really care about all this stuff, and she does put in the work. It's just kind of her extracurriculars that put on a facade to everyone else, because if you don't know her, then you don't know her. But the main point of this episode was introducing her and Raine's relationship and how that started and how that affects both of them to this day, because obviously Eda and Raine are two very important characters in present day. And so we have fun little little adventure here where they do all these challenges in a very fun way, and even at the end they don't play Tara's game. They're not going to take each other out, they're not going to capture each other. It's them as a duo, they really excel. They kind of play to each other's strengths, and you can tell that they're really fond of each other, and all of that causes Raine to transfer to Hexside, and that the rest is history. Other than this episode just purely being a fun little flashback episode, showing Eda and Raine's relationship, we do get a little bit of extra treat at the end with us seeing how Raine is not brainwashed like we thought he was, right? If we go back to the first episode of the season, which is the Coven Day Parade episode, we were led to believe that Raine has been being brainwashed to erase certain memories. And then at the very end of this episode, we see that Raine uses his little like whistle magic thing on Tara's tea so that the tea doesn't affect him. And that was foreshadowed by earlier in the episode how Raine would do his whistle thing on Eda's juice and like change its chemical makeup into something, from something disgusting to something delicious. So again, even little things like that, I love, again, like with the writing, I love how the Owl House writers, like, they almost think of something cool and then they're like, oh, well, but we can't do that because it'd be weird to just introduce that Raine can whistle into a cup, and that's why Tara's tea doesn't work on him. So let's set it up earlier in the episode to be like, it's kind of like it's just like a random moment, right? Like nothing we got to put thought into, just like, oh, he whistled into the cup because he's like a bard. He does like bard magic, so it's all sound and music and stuff. And oh, he can like change the consistency of like liquids, whatever, right? So just really good writing again, and just little things like that in hindsight are super obvious, but someone actually had to think of that and like set it up and pay it off. Then we got Hollow Mind. Hollow Mind. This was a kind of continuation, or not a continuation, but like another example of the episode where Luce and Amity went into Willow's mind. Now, wait, am I right? Yeah. Where now Luce and Hunter are going to Belos's mind. And this is where a lot of cards get put on the table, okay? This whole episode, very, very important as an episode. It fully unmasked Belos. It gave some secrets as to who Hunter really is. And I believe this is where they're mostly telling us what the Day of Unity is going to be. So let's see. So for the most part, this kind of, some setup is that, Belos is just using, cheap tricks to trick everyone in the Boiling Isles, that, into believing that he can speak to the Titan, into believing that wild magic is bad, into believing that you should all get sigils and do covens. But this is all set up to introduce the Day of Unity and to show that he is a witch hunter, which is crazy. And then also that he is Philip. This is where it's confirmed that Belos is Philip. And then he has this strange like way of thinking where he's saying that he's saving humanity from evil, which again, like, this is where you start to think that, and this is kind of where I came up with the theory, this is where it finally hit me that maybe Belos just hates witches because he was, like, the time he was from like the 1600s or whatever, and like that was sort of around the time, I guess, where people were hunting witches, I believe it was earlier than that. Wasn't it earlier than the 1600s? No, maybe not, because Salem, maybe not, I don't know. But yeah, like I guess that's why, maybe because in his time period on Earth, like witches were bad, and like they were doing witch hunts, literal witch hunts. So I guess maybe him coming here and him seeing witches, like he sees everyone in this realm as evil. I guess, but also like I don't like that way of reasoning, because is there any evidence of these witches coming to Earth and to come into the human realm and like doing evil? Like I feel like we know all the witches here, not all of them, but we've gone through almost 2 seasons at this point, right? Seeing all the witches from Luce's perspective, and like everyone seems cool, and everyone just seems like they're living their life. It doesn't seem like anyone here has any weird like evil scheme to go to the human realm and cause mischief. But aside from Belos, I also have Hunter, who we realize is a Grimwalker. We don't really know what a Grimwalker is, and like even to like jumping ahead to the end of the season as a whole, we still don't really know what a Grimwalker is. All we know is that the Grimwalkers seem to be like creatures that Belos has created in the spitting image of an old friend, right? That's kind of all he says. And he seems, and they seem to be disposable to him, right? Like we see all of the Golden Guard masks, and we see that Hunter doesn't matter to Belos, like, because like he expects Hunter at some point to betray him, so he's just gonna kill him and then make a new one. And so that is a huge blow to Hunter's character. Like, oh my god, like this, he's gonna die at some point. You know, a lot of reveals this episode. And yeah, that's pretty much that episode is the big reveal of Hunter being a Grimwalker, and now he has to carry that weight. And then Bellows being Philip, being a witch hunter. We got to do something about this, you know, because this is really the first episode where we realize what the day unity is going to be, and like how we know that Bellows' plan, his life's mission is to kill all witches apparently. And that leaves everyone in shock. You know, like the episode ends with Hunter running out of the owl house because he can't process all of this. You know, it ends up with Luce just in stunned, shocked silence in front of Eda. Just like, in her mind, she probably doesn't even know how to approach, like how to explain what she just saw in Bellows' mind. And also the very fun little fact that now Bellows knows that Luce and Hunter know all of this. So now we're on high alert. Next we got Edge of the World. Okay. We got Edge of the World. This was the realization that King is a Titan. That's pretty much the only thing that matters in this episode. We got the Titan chapters. We later realize that their god is the Collector, which at the time doesn't really seem that weird. It's like, okay, yeah, I mean, you know, Philip or Bellows was trying to get the Collector to, you know, somehow the Collector's incorporated in Bellows' plan, and now the Titan Trappers worship the Collector as well. Later on in the season, now that we know who the Collector is, we see that that's crazy. And also there's some weird questions there of like, how does the Collector feel about Titans? You know, does the Collector actually want to kill all Titans? And what does that mean for, you know, what King's predicament is, you know, at the end of the season, you know, but we'll get into that. So yeah, that's pretty much this episode. A lot of sadness. You know, we haven't really had a lot of sadness when it comes to King. I would say aside from when they visited his home and they didn't really find anything as to who he really is. You know, but even with that episode, I feel like there was more like determination as the end result. Like, it was sad in the moment because we see that like Eda lied to him, but beyond that, it was determination of like, okay, we have all agreed upon this now. Like, we all agree that this is what's happening. So now we're, you know, now there's a fire in his eyes of like, okay, now I want to see who my family is. You know, they must still be alive. They must be somewhere. Like, we're going to figure this out. We're going to figure out who I really am and what I can really do. But with this one, it just ripped, you know, the rug. I feel like at this point, this is probably the hardest the rug has been ripped up from under someone in this show. Because, like, it seems like he got the letter, and it seems like who wrote the letter knows about him, knows who he is, and he gets there and everyone looks like him. And then it turns out that not only are they not his family, because that right there would have sucked, but it would have been like, there would have been some reconciliation. There would have been some silver lining to everything. But not only are they not his family, they're also trying to kill him. Specifically him, and not just Titans, specifically King, because King is apparently the last living Titan. So yeah, not the best day. not, you know, it could have been a lot better. So other than that being the main takeaway from the episode is that King is a Titan now, or I guess he always was, but King is now a Titan, which opens up so many questions of like, how can he help? You know, I don't expect them to ever be like drawing blood from him. I feel like that's be a little too much for the show. But you know, it opens so many questions like how he can help and like what that means for his role in the show. Aside from, you know, he's always going to be King. He's always going to be, you know, Eda's son and, you know, Luce's sister and all that. But aside from all of that, the last little nugget of information with the show is that at the very end, like I was saying, remember a couple minutes ago I said that now Belos knows that Luce and Hunter know. Well, he tried to cover his tracks, and now he's sending all of his scouts to the Owl House to trap them and probably capture them, because it's like, oh, they know too much. I can't allow them to try to go around and spread these lies. Next we got Labyrinth Runners. This was a mostly Gus-centric episode, which I'm down with. Like I said, I'm always down to see more characters that aren't part of the Owl House or Amity, I guess. So we see more Gus, and with this one, we see a lot of nice little relationships between our trio of Gus, Willow, and Hunter, which I love that that's become a trio. One of my favorite full circle moments of this episode is back when, how Willow and Gus first met. It was Willow kind of calming Gus down and teaching him a little breathing trick that she has to calm their mind. And then that comes back around with Hunter freaking out, because the whole chase, and it's the whole reason that's happening is because of who he really is and his relationship to Belos. And so Gus teaches him the cool breathing trick to calm him down, and that's a nice little bonding moment. And then it comes back around towards the very end where Gus is freaking out. He's put the whole thing into a labyrinth. He's kind of sort of now being hunted, whatever. And so Hunter calms him down and then attempts to show him the breathing trick again, and he completely botches it. But him botching it was almost better than him getting it right, because that kind of grounds him a little bit, and it brings levity to the situation, and it helps Gus calm down, I guess. So that again, that's really nice. Again, another cool little piece of writing there where they were able to show us how Willow and Gus met, which I never really cared about. I mean, I love Willow and Gus, but I mean, that question was really gnawing at me. But they show it to us, and it's a very sweet moment, and then it comes back around not once but twice, and also it's relevant each time that little moment comes back around. Other than that, not really too much. Aside, with it being more of a Gus-centric episode, we do see how much he's grown as well. Like a few episodes ago, we saw how much Willow has grown, and we see that Gus is fully embracing the illusion magic, which we know that in the beginning of the show, he kind of felt was useless. Like there was many points where he felt was useless, and he's like, no one ever respects the illusion coven, it's all seen as theatrics, it's never seen as practical. But he's fully embracing. He's really good at it too. Like he was the one that was able to see the head coven's illusion multiple times. And I just really love I love how much they developed Gus this episode. Other than that, there's a nice little B plot here with Amity kind of absent-mindedly putting Willow down. I don't really think she's trying to, but with them being friends again, she only really knows Willow as a weaker witch, and not super capable, and not as much of a leader as she really can be. And I like that finally Willow puts her foot down, and she's like, no, I don't need your help. I don't need it. I'm perfectly fine with taking care of myself. I don't need you to look after me. That was the old Willow. Who I am now, if I need to, I can protect you, and I just love that, because it's kind of her coming out, and Amity's like, okay, you got it, you are absolutely correct. So love this episode, mostly developing Gus's character, but also showing a little bit of that rekindled friendship with Amity and Willow, which is nice that they finally were able to do that. And And also just real quick, something I did forget to mention on one of the previous episodes. I believe it was, which episode was it? It was Reaching Out, when Amity was going to the brawl. Or was it that episode? No, it was before that even. It was back in Follies at the Coven Day Parade. Yeah. I just remembered it because I was talking about Amity and Willow's relationship. When Luce was hiding all that stuff from her, or just kind of like acting weird, Amity had her phone and Amity went to Willow for help, which was really nice because she's just like, well, you're the only one that, because Willow's the only one that kind of makes sense for her to go to, even though they're not really friends again. And, I just thought that was sweet. And then next we got, "Oh Titan, where art thou?" Oh Titan. Whoops. Okay, so this was where we're seeing more and more of like the main plot kind of getting pushed along. This is where we're introduced to the cats and how everything's kind of looking up. Because a huge proponent of this episode was Eda and Lilith not having a plan. Like, they have no idea what to do. Neither of them have magic. They feel like they're worthless. They feel like there's nothing they can do to stand up to Bellos, who's been planning this for hundreds of years. And they have, let me just check my watch, 2 days, So they feel really bad about that. And that mixed with Eda's love for Luce and King, trying to be like, hey, I'm going to send them away. I'm going to keep them safe. That all culminates into a moment that I never really thought was ever going to happen. It's a moment where Eda and Luce fight, like for real, where they, Luce hates that. Luce is like, why, you're going to send me away? Like, I can help. Why are you treating me like a child? Like, out of all the things that I've done, all of these adventures, like, why would you think that sending me away would be the best option? And Eda, being like her mother for the most part, you can understand why Eda wants to do that, right? Like, I wouldn't want to send my child to possibly the most evil person I've ever come to know. Like, I wouldn't want her to be a part of that. I'd want her to be safe. Because even if the Day of Unity destroys everything, she will be safe. She will be safe from it. She doesn't have a coven. She won't be drained of her life force or whatever. And she might be able to slip out and, still figure out a way to use the door and get home. So they fight. They have a nice little fight here. And it ends with the scouts capturing them. You just have a really down moment where they're captured, and like Eda's still being rebellious against the scouts, and Luce is just a very defeatist attitude, where she's just like, are you happy? Is this what you wanted? Because now neither of us can defeat Bellos. And just like her, and just like the way they positioned her character, like with her hands behind her back and like leaning against the cell wall with like her like slight tears in her eyes and like her hair getting mushed up against the wall. It's just like she's very distraught right now, and they did a very good job of portraying that. And then that's kind of where the cats come in. We see that Darius, Raine, and the other Coven head, who I always forget their name, but it's like the little like beast Coven head. We realize they're all on the same side. They're all against Bellos. They know what Bellos is trying to do, and they're not with it. The other Coven heads are idiots, and they think that Bellos is bringing them to paradise. But we see them, have a nice moment where it's cats, and Darius hates the name cats. He also hates their little cat battle cry. It's very funny. I love Darius. He's cool. And then that's pretty much it. We have a few nice moments here that I do want to point out. We have a possibly thinly veiled shot at Disney where, Eda's like, we can do anything you want. What do you want to do today? Luce wants to go on a heist. Eda is like, wouldn't you rather go to the beach or something? And Luce is like, oh, well, maybe if we had time for 20 more adventures. it's a very thinly veiled shot at Disney for, cutting short their season 3. That's very good. A couple other nice little moments. We have some nice mirroring where Raine didn't want to tell Eda about everything because saying the wrong name. Raine didn't want to tell Eda about what they were planning because Raine cares for Eda and he just wanted to keep her safe. They wanted to keep her safe. And it's funny because the whole time that they're telling her this, Eda is looking over at Luce and she's like finally realizing that, oh, you feel about me the same way I feel about Luce and King, where it's like I was making that tough decision because I wanted to keep them safe, but I rebelled and I fought against that with you, so of course Luce is going to be the same way and fight against that with me. And I love that their name is the Cats because, even Luce has a moment where she's like, everything's come full circle because, Luce has the cat hoodie, it's just like she wears a cat hoodie, and now their last ditch effort to, all of their time here is culminating into this final battle, and their rebellion name is the Cats. But then finally we do have a moment that I think everyone's been waiting for, where Eda decides to help Luce carve her talisman. And, it's great because, Eda's there and, Luce tries to get out of it, but she's like, no, we're going to do this. You got to carve your talisman. We got all the time in the world, which they don't. But it's nice that they kind of take a breath for a second and remember, oh yeah, this is something that I have always wanted ever since I learned what a talisman was. Then we got next episode, Clouds on the Horizon. So this episode was mostly, This episode was just another continuation of everything. This was more of, we see more planning, and we really are getting everyone together of like, okay, this is the second to last episode of the season. This is the build-up episode. This is the setup, and for next episode's payoff, right? That's pretty much the purpose of this episode. So there's a lot of not really loose ends that are being tied up, but more so like there's a lot of things that are being addressed in this episode, so that they are out in the open for next episode. So basically their plan is that they're going to disguise Eda as Raine, because the curse magic will take care of it, right? We'll kind of disrupt the ritual or whatever, right? Honestly, pretty good plan for all intents and purposes. So that's where the whole thing is set up. I don't think we see any more of the plan beyond that. So that is the setup for next episode for them executing the plan. We also see a slight payoff from last episode. I just mentioned that they were carving the talisman. We see that Luce has carved an egg for a talisman. Very weird choice, but I like her reasoning for it, where she's saying that she wants her talisman to decide on its own what it wants to be. So I guess at some point, we don't see it in this season, but I assume at some point next season we are going to see her egg hatch, I guess. And I know the fan theories are running wild as to what that's going to be. I think an easy choice would be a cat, although Amity's is a cat, I'm pretty sure, so I don't think they'll do the same animal again. I feel like an owl would be too on the nose, so I don't really know. I don't really know what animal could make sense. I think people have mentioned a bat. Maybe a bat would make sense. I don't know. I feel like that'd be too close to, like, the Bat Queen or whatever. So we'll see. Maybe they'll go the super weird route and it'll be a human. But yeah, and there is kind of like surrounding Eda. Kind of going back to the plan involving Eda with her taking the place. There is kind of like a weird energy with Eda in this episode where it feels like Eda is perfectly, like, it seems like she's ready to say goodbye. Like, she has perfectly accepted the fact that she may have to sacrifice her life for this plan to work, and even King kind of notices it, where King is like, stop talking like that. This isn't goodbye. And Eda doesn't really address that directly, and I'm like, oh, Eda is planning on it, What else? And then probably the biggest pop of this entire episode was that we finally get the Lumity kiss. Finally happened. Amity says that she is not going to allow the world to end before her and Luce go on a real date. Luce promises to go on a plain old slice of life date, which I would love to see a little mini series, just just with them hanging out and going on dates. That'd be really fun. And the scene itself was beautiful. I think everyone who watched the episode recognized it. How like beautifully animated the scene was, and how well the lighting was, and how fluid everything was. Like, it was, they put all their money into that scene because they knew that scene had to be important. And it's capped off with with Luce saying, "Oh crikey," which we have never heard her say before. But just goes to show, like, both of them very much wanted what happened to happen, but they're still so like awkward because of just who they are. Very, very funny, very weird, very funny. And again, kind of breaking off of that for a second, like, I really like how weird Luce in particular is, because I feel like a lot of shows have, and movies and whatever, have tried to make the weird character, like, oh, look at the weird character, this character will be relatable to all the other weird people watching the show or reading the movie. But I feel like a lot of shows and movies don't get weirdness right. I feel like it's always like off the wall, or like rambunctious, or edgy, you know what I mean? And like that's not like a real and grounded type of weird. That's just like them just throwing paint at a canvas and being like, oh, we have a weird character for people to relate to. I feel like Luce is like one of the best examples of an actual weird person. How like she's still a human, like she still acts like a rational human, but there's just little moments where she just does stuff and it's like, it's just very endearing. It's a very endearing type of weird, which I think is real. Aside from all of that, the kind of climax of the episode is, Amity ready to throw hands with Adalia after she insulted Luce. She was not happy with that. Not happy at all. And then we have Luce then in turn defending Hunter. So same way Amity defended Luce, Luce is now defending Hunter from Kikimora. So it's those moments right there are just strengthening, just strengthening all of their relationships, as like, we're all friends, like we are all a group now. We've gone through so much together, but it's us against the world, which isn't totally true, but that's kind of the sentiment that's being come across here. And then on the complete opposite side of that, us looking at all these characters that really care for each other, it's finally revealed. Alador and Odalia kind of sort of married, but not really. They're more so business partners than actual romantic, like, wife and husband. And Alador's a real one for being like, you know what, nah, this is over. You're a terrible mother. You're still making all these things and want to do business with Belos after we know what Belos is gonna do with all this. What? Like, a blight always upholds their end of the bargain. Like, that is such a cop out. Like, he is literally evil. Like, he is going to, I don't know, kill everybody tomorrow, and you're just okay with it. You're just like, well, gotta make the money. So no, you're gonna die too. I don't think you understand. So they, for all intents and purposes, it seems like they're not going to be together anymore, which is great. Love it. Love that, just kicking Odalia to the curb, And then, the very end, we get the big plot twist, where instead of Kikimora taking Hunter, Luce's plan was to switch places with Hunter, and now Luce is going straight to Bellows, which again just goes to show where her character is. She is willing to sacrifice herself to save her friends. She didn't want she didn't want Hunter to be captured to go to Bellows, because Hunter probably would have died in that moment, as soon as Hunter fell on his doorstep. So she prevented that. And I think this episode, like I said, it's mostly set up for next episode. But we do get a lot of really good moments, and some ends are tied, with like Alador and Odalia, with Lumity finally getting their like moment, that them being, this being a Disney show. I think everyone was like wary of like if this was ever gonna actually happen. So great moments all around, but there is this overtone of ominous going into the finale. Speaking of the finale, which is King's Tide, this is where it is, guys. This is everything. Bellows, which was hinted at last episode, Bellows knows about their plan at least somewhat, and him switching things up to make Eda be uncomfortable, not in the right position, staying on Bellows for a second, him kind of trying to control everything, like he betrays the Collector. This just goes to show how arrogant Bellows is, and how he thinks he knows how everything's gonna work out the way it should. Proof of that being how he really has all the other Coven heads brainwashed, thinking that they're gonna be royalty, they're gonna reach paradise. Like again, this episode is one of those ones, like top 3 probably, and arguably top 1. To show how Bellows really is evil. Like he's not just misunderstood. He's not just wrong place, wrong time. Like he is evil. He's willing to wipe out, like genocide. It is literal genocide. And it's not even really for a good reason. Like again, like the only thing that I can really think of is that it's because he was from a time of witch hunting. Like even with him and Luce, like he tells Luce that he wants to be known as the witch hunter general. It's like, but witch hunters aren't really a thing. They're not really a thing in the human realm anymore. So it's like, that's not going to happen. You're going to go back to the human realm and say, I have killed thousands of witches. And they're going to say, okay, dude, cool. So it just goes to show like how evil he is, but also how misguided he is, and how like he's just an idiot. And then Luce outsmarting him, me going back to him being an idiot, Luce outsmarting him and putting a sigil on him so that he starts to get trained. Like that is a very classic protagonist thing to do, where it's like, oh, of course she thought of that. Of course she thought of getting the glove, putting a sigil on him, and that was the only way to get rid of him, right? Because he was like, so much stronger than she was. She would have never been able to beat him with magic. And then through all of this, King does the unspeakable, and he frees the Collector, which in the moment seems like possibly a good idea. It has some great effects. Short term, King freeing the Collector was the best thing that ever happened, right? He, the Collector kills Bellows with a snap of his finger, just murders the man, which in that moment is shock. Like in that moment, it's not even like, oh yeah, Bellows is dead. It's more like, did he really just kill Bellows? Like, did we just get a character death? And then he also just moved the moon with his finger. It's like, oh yeah, the moon's not on the eclipse anymore, so the draining spell's done. Like the Collector adds such a dangerous element to the show, because he's seemingly an actual god, and he doesn't seem like a good guy. He doesn't seem like there's someone that's, okay, cool, Collector's here now, we can just now live our lives. Who needs a season 3? Because the show is done. Good has prevailed. So him not being quite a good guy, possibly evil, I don't know how they can beat him. Like, he seems to be able to kill someone with a snap of his fingers. So yeah, I mean, that's not the end of it, though. I mean, we do see the Collector seemingly just destroying the demon realm, I guess. They're trying to escape. They have the bright idea of going to the door, which is very exciting. They're going to go to the human realm, it seems. Some quick stuff that happened was a piece of Bellows fell onto Hunter's shoulder. So that's scary. I'm sure nothing bad will come of that. We have a heartbreaking moment where Luce and King are going to stay behind because, she can't leave Eda behind. And at that point, we're like, no, we can't have that. I don't want to see all of, Willow, Gus, and Amity go to the human realm without Luce. Like, that's going to be terrible. Like, it's going to be so sad. And in the last moment, King's scream, he pushes Luce and everyone else through the portal and stays behind. And he has a moment where he's like, I'm so glad that I got to have you as a sister. And it's just like, oh no, it sounds like he's saying goodbye forever. So and then it just ends with everyone in shock, Gus on the ground crying. I'm just like, I can't believe that just happened. I can't believe Bellows is dead. I can't believe the Collector is here and he's real and he's a god and he killed Bellows and he stopped the draining spell, but he seems to be destroying the demon realm, and also King is there. And like I said before, with the knowledge of the Titan Trappers worshipping the Collector, how does the Collector feel about Titans? Does the Collector hate Titans? Does the Collector want to kill Titans? Does the Collector know that King is a Titan? It's not good. It's not good. And then two very, very, very end things are a nice little Easter egg to Amphibia, which is another fantastic show. With there being like a news article about what was her name? What was Anne? Her name was Anne, with Anne coming back and girl lost in Frogland. Is it a hoax? So that's the whole thing. So that was a nice little Easter egg there. And then it ends with Camilla opening her front door, and there is Luce, Willow, Gus, Amity, and Hunter, and all Luce says is, "Hey Mom, I'm back." Oh, so why not just get right into predictions? Because there's so much that this show could be. There's so much that this last season could be. It's ridiculous. So let's just rattle off. Let's just rap. Hey guys, let's rap. The Collector having King is dangerous because isn't he the god to the Titan Trappers? Again, like I was just saying, what is his relationship to Titans? How was he trapped? Was it a Titan's fault that he was trapped? There's so many questions to be had. What is he going to do with King if he knows he's a Titan? If he doesn't, is he ever going to find out? If he does he just not care? He just wants someone to play with. That's awful. I'm very scared for King because I don't know that King can take care of himself. Maybe this will finally be the setup for King developing even more Titan powers. Maybe King will play a vital role in taking down the Collector. Can the Collector transcend the demon realm? That's a scary thought. If he is an essential god in the demon realm, does that transfer over to the human realm? Can he transcend it and go into the human realm? I don't want that. I don't want that with how just recklessly powerful he is. Are all those witches dead? All the witches that we saw, including Raine? are they dead? Because that's terrible. I mean, in my mind, if I had to put an answer to that, I would probably say no. I would say there's no reason they can actually be dead, because I feel like that's so many dead characters just off the boiling isles. I feel like that'd be too much. But how are they gonna get him back? What's it gonna take? Is Eda and possibly King, like, are they gonna be able to get them back? Are they gonna be able to, maybe something they have to do to bring him back to life? I don't know. Eda, and on top of that, Eda is going to be upset that King is hurt, or not King, Raine is hurt, or possibly dead. Like, I feel like we're gonna see her go maybe a little bit of a Super Saiyan and just go off. I think I'm very excited to see what her role is, in her new position of pretty much everyone she knows is hurt, incapacitated. Not sure if she knows where King is, not sure where she actually is right now with the world kind of imploding on itself. Maybe we'll get an Alador and Eda team up. That could be cool. I don't know. I mean, Alador does have the sigil, so I imagine he might be incapacitated, but maybe with the more depth that we've gotten to Alador's character, and also how Alador ended, how his story has ended up until this point, and also with Alador and Eda kind of knowing each other, be cool to see them together. Fighting for their literal children, and then just Odalia. All me and my homies, they all hate Odalia. we cannot have her. Like, if she's dead, totally cool with it. I do not want her to have a redemption arc. I think she deserves to just rot, lose her business. Alador does not go back to her. Amity does not forgive her. Terrible human being, or terrible witch, I guess. How will Luce tell Camilla about Amity? No, I'm not really coming at the angle of Luce being bi. I don't know if she was ever open about that to her mother. I'm not really talking about that aspect of it. I'm just gonna talk about in general of hey, I now have a girlfriend, which is already a big thing for a parent to deal with, I guess. But also that she's a witch from the demon realm. I don't know how Camilla's gonna take that, and again, I feel like Camilla's mostly understanding. For the most part, she was staying strong when Luce was telling her about all the demon realm stuff, and she only broke down at the end, wanting her to come back in her life, which I think is totally justifiable. She's her mother. Of course she wants her daughter to come back, and of course she's scared of this thing called the demon realm where there's witches and magic, and of course, I don't think Camilla can be blamed for any of that, for feeling any of that. Also, what's V been up to? We haven't seen much of her because we haven't really seen any of the human realm since last season. Or I guess since the last half of the season. So just interested what V's been up to. Probably just living their life, but it'd be cool to see her again. I mean, I know we're going to, but just wondering. How much will these witches interact with human stuff? So I don't really know how much we're gonna see of that. Are we gonna see a lot of Gus being fascinated by the television and Hunter, I don't know, just I don't know, them dealing with technology and human food and I don't know, all that stuff. I'm sure we'll see some of it, because I think it'd be crazy for us to not see them kind of shocked and awed and curious about that stuff. It just sounds like something fun, something fun to, some little moments of these episodes. Does magic work in the human realm? I don't think we've ever confirmed or denied that, because the only time we've seen the human realm past the first episode was when Luce kind of got the door working and we had V, right? But even then, Luce was not in the human realm, so I don't know that we ever got confirmation if magic works or it doesn't. I mean, V is able to transform, but I wouldn't really call that magic. I would just call that's her chemical makeup. It's how how an octopus can use camouflage. It's like, it's not really magic, it's just part of their DNA, but when it comes to magic, it's like, does that still work? Like, do the rules still apply in the human realm? I don't know if they do, but it'd be fun to learn. I'm sure we'll learn that very quickly. How can everyone get back? I feel like that's the big question. Like at some point there's going to be a bridge, because we can't just leave everyone in the human realm that's there right now and everyone in the demon realm like they are right now. Like there's going to be a bridge. I don't know how. I don't know how they can get their hands on Titan blood, and there's just somehow Titan blood in the human realm. I don't know if there's any other way to reach them. So to me, it sounds like it's up to Eda and King and, Alador, Darius, all those guys to figure it out and like get them back. I imagine we're going to have a moment where King tells Eda, it's like, hey, Luce and those guys aren't here. And she's like, what happened? What do you mean they're not here? He's like, well, they're kind of in the human realm. So I'm sure at that point Eda will do everything in her power and everything beyond her power to reach the human realm. Will Luce have to make a decision between the human realm and the demon realm? I feel like this is a question that we have had pretty much ever since the show started. I feel like this has been a question that us fans have pondered, because I feel like this was always going to be a thing that was going to need to be said. It's now even more prevalent because now they are all stuck in the human realm. Luce being stuck there is, is kind of a, not even a real issue because she belongs there, but her friends are not human, so they are literally stuck there. I mean, Hunter doesn't really have any family in the demon realm. I mean, unless, Pancake, his palisman, didn't come with him, then I'm sure he really, really misses Pancake, or Flapjack. But like, Gus and Willow and Amity all have family that they care about back in the demon realm, so I'm sure they want to get back, no matter how much they love Luce. Yeah, like I don't know. At the end of the day, is it going to come to a decision? Is it going to come to Luce having to make a decision as to, like, the portal can only work one more time, and after this, no portal will ever be able to be made again, and the possibility of traveling between realms will be impossible. And so now you have to choose: do you want to stay in the human realm or come to the demon realm? Like, will that even be a choice? I don't know. Like, King is a demon. We got demon blood. To figure out how to work one way, I can't imagine they wouldn't be able to figure it out again. But if there is a choice, it'd be interesting to see what choice she makes. And depending on the choice she makes, it'd be interesting to see what other characters around her, what choice they make. Because Luce's choice can cause maybe Amity to think a certain way, maybe her mom to think a certain way, Eda, I don't know, we'll see. And then any character deaths. We can see any main character deaths. We already saw Belos, but do you think we'll see any other character deaths from like main characters? Like other characters I don't really care, like even someone like Darius, it's like, he's really cool, really love his character, but like, he's not like, I mean, I would be sad if he died, but he wouldn't hit as hard as like Gus, you know what I mean? Or Eda or something like that. I mean, personally, I don't think this show will kill off anybody. I think the only possibility of a main character dying, I think, is Eda. I think she has like the whispers of like a red flag, so maybe she could die. Like, I could see it as like her being that older mentor, her being the surrogate mother character, her having the curse, her already seemingly willing to sacrifice herself for this plan. Like, if her dying brings everyone back, like saves the demon realm, makes it so there is a working portal between the demon realm and the human realm for Luce and everyone who loves Luce, I could see them writing it in a certain way to like make that make sense and like make it feel earned. But even then, like, I don't know, I'd be really sad to see her die. So but yeah, that is everything. that is everything. I think that is easily the longest episode of this podcast I've ever done. But the show deserves it. The show is definitely one of my favorite cartoons ever made. One of my favorite shows ever made. Absolutely. But yeah, please let me know what you thought of this season 2B. Let me know about any other predictions you got other than the ones I have. I mean, obviously, let me know if my predictions make sense, or if you feel like any of them are completely wrong. Also, let me know of any other ones that you got, because I'm interested. I'm interested to see what other people think. We have nothing but time at this point. We don't know when season 3 is airing. People have rumored it's going to air in October, just because that time frame like makes sense as to how many months are between past seasons. That sucks. I don't want to wait that long. I don't want to wait another 4 months. I'd much rather, in July this stuff air. But we know it's the end. We know it's going to be special. So I'm willing to wait. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you think of the show so far, predictions, all that stuff. And yeah, until next time, there's no more Owl House to watch until there is. So maybe watch some other cartoons, and let me know what else you want to see on here.